Okay, so both of y'all lived through the civil rights movement, right?
Yeah.
Do y'all have any specific stories y'all would like to tell?
The civil rights movement, Joe? Well, Papa was a little older for that. I was, it was in like in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got married in 1960. So we didn't live through it as as teenagers, but we did live through it as adults. Because we remember when Martin Luther King was killed. We remember when they had sit-in demonstrations here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened in Houston? The group of people at Texas Southern University talked to the people in City Hall because they were getting ready to have a big parade downtown Houston. So the young people in Houston talked to the Houston businessmen and told them that if they would open up the lunch counters, then they would not break up the parade that they were having downtown. They were having a big time parade. I forget who it was, but I think it was for the astronauts. I believe it was some big parade where the whole country was going to be watching Houston. So what happened? The businessmen got together at night and they talked with all the business owners downtown, and every one of them agreed to just open up their lunch counters and open up everything publicly without saying a word about it. So the next day, Houston was integrated. There were no more demonstrations, and it was like Houston was integrated secretly overnight. So they did a lot of sitting at the lunch counters, but mostly the integration in Houston happened silently.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. And I bought this book by a young man called L. Drury Stearns, who was one of the leaders of the demonstrations at TSU and here in Houston. And he was the one that told a lot about a lot of those things and how they quietly integrated Houston. About that too. Yeah, some of the Middleton people, some of the Papa's friends that worked with him at the ship channel and with the labor unions, they all helped to finance the children when they got arrested. Some of the doctors, Dr. Coleman, they would get them out of jail. They would pay for their bail. And Mac Hanna was one of the wealthy businessmen, would pay to get them out of jail. And Reverend Bill Lawson was their advisor, but he didn't want them to. He didn't want them to demonstrate. He'd ask them, "What are your parents going to think when you're supposed to be in class and you out demonstrating?" But they were determined to demonstrate anyway.
Yeah.
So he said, "Okay, I'll support you if you're going to demonstrate anyway. I'll support you if that's what y'all determined to do." So it happened. And one of the biggest civil rights leaders in Houston was Mickey Leland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of the youngsters that was going over to Africa and helping break the apartheid, and he was killed in a plane crash over there when he was on a food mission, taking food to some of the people in Africa that were having a hard time.
Any other things you remember or experienced?
Well, I remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated, but before that, I remember when President Kennedy was assassinated. I was in the grocery store getting food to cook for your daddy and your two uncles and your papa for Thanksgiving dinner, and it came over the loudspeaker. And I just walked out of the store and left everything there and didn't even shop. I don't think we even had a Thanksgiving dinner that day because it was Thanksgiving Day. I think we just sit around that day watching TV and listening because that's when President Kennedy had gotten assassinated. It was Thanksgiving Day, either that or the day before Thanksgiving.
So, was your high school segregated?
Yes,
Explain
absolutely.
that.
My high school was absolutely segregated. When I finished high school in 1957. And as a matter of fact, even a part of the segregation, we didn't even get new school books. Our school books, we got our books the year after the white kids used them, then they brought them to our school. They already had other kids' names in them. And some of the go ahead, Papa. What did you say? Some of the kids books we got, some of the page was missing out of it, and we couldn't even ride the school bus to school. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the white kids would ride school bus, but we couldn't. They wouldn't even let us ride the school bus. It wouldn't. They didn't have no school bus for black until I went into service. I was in the service when they started having school buses. And they didn't have a high school in Papa and them's town. The nuns taught them. And they y'all go to the 6th grade? No, 7th grade. Went to the 7th grade. And when they got past the 7th grade, their parents had to transport them into Lafayette for the high school. Because they didn't have a high school in Karen Crow. Mm-hmm. But they didn't provide them with a bus, so most of the time, a lot of them didn't even get to go past the 7th grade. After I went in the army, they did. Yeah, after he went in the military. And that was in 1954, 53. Yeah. He went in the military in the Korean War.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I couldn't remember what war he was in.
My brother was in the military, so you see how much older he is than me.
Yes, I know.
She wasn't going to pass that up.
Y'all are 9 years apart. Y'all have a little.
Yeah. I did go to a totally segregated school, but we had the thing about that, George. There's good and bad. We had excellent teachers because our teachers couldn't teach anywhere but in our schools. Mm-hmm. So we had excellent teachers that taught us. And then when the schools got integrated, a lot of our teachers, they took our teachers and moved them to, white schools because they go to white schools then. Mm-hmm. But we had stronger schools and stronger teachers when we were integrated. When we were segregated than we did after integration.
Okay. Let me think of something else historic.
Yeah, we had segregated schools, definitely.
Yeah, y'all lived through a lot.
Yeah, and you know what else was we would had to go to the back door to get served. They didn't serve us. We couldn't even go in the front. We had to go to the back door if you wanted something to eat. Yeah. In restaurants, you mean? Everywhere you went, yeah. Except the grocery store. And the other thing I remember, I rode the bus a lot when I was in college. But when I was in college, it was during the segregated part. That was in 57 and 58 and 59 and 60 when I was in college. When I went to college, you could ride the bus, but you couldn't sit down in the dining room and eat. You had to go to the window.
At Prairie View?
No, this was at the bus station, at the Greyhound bus station.
Okay.
Which you experienced the other day, I understand, huh?
Yeah.
That's quite an experience, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
She rode the bus to Atlanta. But we'd get our food at the window and go sit on the bus and eat. We couldn't eat inside the restaurant. Not for the first 2 years I was in college. Plus, the outdoor toilet, they had black and white. Even the outhouse. The outhouse. People sitting over a hole in the ground, and they had to have a black hole and a white hole. The water fountain, you couldn't go there. Black couldn't drink at the water fountain.
At all?
You remember that? No, I remember that. Yeah. Experienced that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When we was traveling from Houston to Louisiana, they had outhouses too. Yeah. Water fountains and all that stuff. Water fountains. And some of them wouldn't even say, gas. Oh, yeah, I remember my dad telling me that when we would drive back and forth from Bryan to Lamarck, if we couldn't use the restroom, he wouldn't buy gas there. He'd go on to another service station where they would let us use the restroom. Because when we were growing up, sometimes you'd have to stop on the side of the road and go into the woods because you couldn't go into the restrooms at the service station. Can you believe that?
I mean, y'all made me do it.
I remember one other thing. We went to Sammy's graduation. Sammy's got his master's degree. You didn't go, but me and Aunt Maddie and Aunt Jackie
Where did he
And
graduate from?
he got his master's in business from University of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
He got his undergraduate degree at Prairie View, but he got his master's at University of Pittsburgh. And we drove all the way from here to his graduation. And on our way back, we had reservations at a hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. Well, we got to a place called Forest City, Arkansas, and we thought, well, we'll just stop here. We stopped there, and they wouldn't rent us a room. They said, we don't have a room. They were renting rooms all around us. They said, well, all we got is a family room. So we said, well, we'll all stay in one room. Well, no, I can't rent you that. They would not rent us a room in Forest City, Arkansas. We had to turn around and go all the way back to Little Rock. And Little Rock had a basketball tournament, so the Holiday Inns were filled up. So what we had to do was go to a little motel in a black neighborhood where people go and rent rooms by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
All of us piled in one of those old moldy, creaky rooms, and there was a lot of traffic all the time, all through the night. But we slept through that, and we got up and came on home the next morning.
What's the city right before you get to Louisiana? It started with V.
Before we get to Louisiana,
Mm-hmm. It started with V.
Vida.
Yeah. Have you ever had any experiences there?
No, I didn't have any experience in Vida, but Papa's niece, when they were coming from Louisiana to Houston, they didn't know about Lois. Mm-hmm. They didn't know about Vida. Every time they'd come through, they'd stop at Burger King in Vida, a Dairy Queen, because they didn't have Burger King then, and eat. And the people would stare at them. So it's no telling what they did to their food.
Yeah.
Because they were very segregated then. They were a long way from segregation. Now it's not so bad. But I can tell you one thing that happened to me with somebody from Vida. After I started working at MD Anderson, I put people to sleep for surgery. Mm-hmm. And I had a patient that I was getting ready to put to sleep. And she was white, obviously. So when I did her history and all that stuff, and asked her where she's from, she said, I'm from Vida. She said, but I'm not like that. So I said, oh, don't worry about that. So I held her hand and rubbed her cheek and put her to sleep and woke her up. And when she woke up, she was so happy. She was just hugging me and smiling. I guess she was worried, but she shouldn't have been worried. But that just lets you know how people think.
Yeah.
That's the only experience I had with Vida. I had a white patient that was apologizing to me before I put her to sleep for her surgery, for her cancer surgery at MD Anderson. And when we were on our way back, picking up your daddy from his military basic training, he had an allergist, so he had taken an allergy pill. And they like to put the car on cruise control. Mm-hmm. We were coming back. We were coming back from Vida. Car was on cruise control. The allergy medicine made Papa really sleepy. He fell asleep at the wheel, and when you fall asleep on cruise control, the car keeps going. Your daddy, mm-hmm. He was driving, and he fell asleep. When you fall asleep with your car on cruise control, it still keeps going. And like if it's not on cruise control, if you fall asleep and your foot falls off the pedal, the car will come to a stop. But on cruise control, it keeps going. We were in Vida, and we went up on this ramp, getting onto the freeway. And all of a sudden, your dad started knocking the rails off the side of the freeway, and the hubcaps were coming off the car. We had rented a car. We woke up. I said, Anthony. And he woke up and hit the brakes. And, boy, we were so glad. We looked up. We were in Vida. We were about to have a crash. If we had a crash in Vida, they probably never would have found us. We probably would have vanished off the face of the earth.
Did you see on the news something about a black boy hanging from a tree in Greensboro?
A white boy.
It was a white boy.
Oh, when I was a youngster.
No, I'm talking about now, recently.
Oh no, it was white. It was a white boy.
Really?
Yeah, and they're trying to say he must have been hung by a black person because he was white. He committed suicide.
Yeah, I saw they ruled it
but
as a suicide.
But they found him hanging from a tree.
Yeah, it was by my school, by my high school.
Yeah, right. It was on the. I just saw it on Facebook. I didn't see it on the news because I haven't been looking at the news because the only thing that's been on is about the president. Let me turn this TV down.
That's interesting. I thought it was a black boy.
No, it's white. He was white, and he committed suicide.
Hmm.
And some people were saying it must have been somebody. It must have been a black person who lynched him, but that wasn't that.
I'll tell you something else that happened to me coming from Fort Hood, and a friend of mine was sitting on a train, and a white woman got on the train. I believe it was in Temple. Yeah, it had to be in Temple because we got on in Killeen. And the conductor wanted us to move and get that white woman that seat. We wouldn't.
Oh, Paul.
He said, "What are we gonna have you put in the jail?" I said, "We don't do it when you get to Houston." But nothing happened though. But we didn't move.
Oh, the other thing, Joy, the military was segregated too. So when I was in college, they have dances for the soldiers, the guys that were in Fort Hood.
Mm-hmm.
So they came and got a bus to bring us to the dance. So they loaded us up to take us to the dance. We thought we were going to be at the dance with blacks and whites. So we weren't. They had a dance for the black soldiers and dance for the white soldiers. So we went to the black soldiers dance.
Is that where you met Pawpaw?
No, I met him he was working with my sister with Aunt Eunice.
Oh.
That's where I met him.
I couldn't vote. It had to be an officer to get it voted.
Oh, I didn't know it was officers. All I know was they took us to the black soldiers dance.
It was the officers. It was the officers dance. It wasn't for no private.
Oh, we also went to one in Galveston for the Navy. They when we were in nursing school, we was nursing school at John Seeley, and they had a ball for the sailors that came into Galveston. So they got us a bus and take us. So we were all on the same bus, whites and black nurses. But they let us off at one place where the black soldiers' ball was, and then the others went on to the other ball. Mm-hmm. So we all rode back home on the same bus, but they were separated. It's strange, isn't it?
Yes. So you saw someone hung before?
Huh?
You saw someone hung before?
No, I never saw anybody hung.
Oh, I thought you.
I remember when Emmett Till was killed.
You were alive for that?
Yeah, I was alive.
Oh.
I was born in 1940.
Really?
He was hanged in 1950 something, about 50, probably 55.
Wow.
I was a teenager.
I didn't know that.
I saw a black get kicked by white folks and they were on. But I was ready to fight. But they took off running. I can't fight if they're running.
I'm glad you didn't fight them.
Yeah, I am too.
I probably would have been dead.
Yeah.
or ex-con.
Yes.
Ex-con.
So anything else you can think of?
How did y'all feel when Barack Obama was elected?
I was in tears. I was in happy tears.
I know that's.
I was in happy tears. I was overjoyed.
What about you, Pawpaw?
Oh, I was. I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe I would live long enough to see that.
I was just as happy when Clinton was elected. Too. I went to both the inaugurations, and went to Obama's inauguration too.
How was that?
It was great. Denzel Washington came and spoke to our group. I went for the one called Boots and some kind of thing. Boots and hard hats, or Boots and tux or something. So Eunice was very politically active, and she always gathered us up. We always traveled with her to the election. So I've been to 3 presidential inaugurations. Me and Jackie and Maddie.
Okay, I think I got enough information.
Oh, okay.